not able to share my screen.
Ma'am, it's okay now. Please check it.
What happened? Okay, so I will share my screen.
Okay, yes, ma'am, it's okay now.
Yeah, it's okay now. It's perfect.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
Done.
thank you. So let me share my screen. So let's begin. So overheads. Now, I think till now, what we've covered is
ആരെങ്കിലും വരച്ചതൊന്ന് മാറ്റോ പ്ലീസ്
what is this on the screen exactly? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. So till now we have looked at material and labor. So now let's get into something called as overheads. As I always say, let's understand why we do the chapter and what is the purpose behind the concept of overheads. So as students or as professionals, when you get into the corporate world, overheads is something that will be the most complex component of costing any product or service. What happens is, in an organization, it is not always just the raw material that you're putting in and the the employees working on it and the product is made or the service is delivered. There's a lot of other expenses also that an organization has to handle. For example, the rent, the lighting, the repairs and maintenance, all of these, or the machinery that is kept. So there are various other components that are there, which is contributing to the production of that final product. The product is not just being made. There's so many hands that are helping in the making of that product. So what we need to understand is how we can allocate the cost of these products, these overheads to the final product. Because rent is not used for one product. It is used, rent is paid for that factory, that warehouse, or that office. How do you allocate that rent to just one particular product? So this in costing has a complete process. So let's begin by understanding how these allocations and apportionments happen. So here you can see that there are various types of overheads, not only relating to the factory production, but administration. So for example, you will always have an administrator who's trying to handle all the, the activities in the organizations, like the receptionist. So she or he will not only be contributing to the production of one service or good. He or she will be contributing to the entire services that are taking place. So how do we allocate her or his or her expenses to that particular service or product that is being provided? Selling and distribution, administration. So these are the various types of overheads that you can see in a company. So I hope you have understood what exactly is overheads. So getting into a little overview of how we're going to take this forward, there are three areas that we are going to be looking at in overheads. One is the redistribution of service accounts to production departments. In other words, allocation and apportionment of these overheads. That's the first thing that we'll do. Second is a calculation of the absorption rate. So what happens is after we have gotten the expenses, we need to absorb these expenses into our product. So how are these expenses absorbed into the product? So that is the second part that we're going to look at. Third is what happens is it sometimes can get over absorbed or under absorbed. So we need to see how we can incorporate that difference into the costing of the product. So this is roughly how we're going to go about the overheads chapter. So let's look at the first topic, which is allocation and apportionment. So I'll just briefly run through a little summary so that just you have an idea before we get into the questions, because this chapter is full of questions and there's not much scope for theory and all in this chapter. So just try to understand what you're doing before you get into it. So first thing is allocation. Allocation, so you need to understand two things, allocation and apportionment. So one thing is, to give you a real life example, in an organization, when you go, there will be one production department. The production department is constantly producing the final goods. The factory is running, the machines are running, they're producing, let's say, Coca-Cola bottles. They're producing that drink bottles, right? But it's not only this department that is functioning. There will be other service departments also. Like there would be somebody who is contributing to how this product has to be packaged. Designing the packaging of this product. There would be somebody who is contributing to some other service, various types of like administrative or selling and distributing services for that particular final product. So it is not only the production department that is running. So what you need to understand is there are multiple service departments, and these service departments that cost which is incurred needs to be allocated to this production department. That is called allocation. The second thing we have, okay, sure. Sorry, Samaya, I already used my speed. So that is the first thing. So allocation is when you need to allocate the service department's expense to the production department. That is one. The second is apportionment. Apportionment is when you have various types of expenses like rent. I told you there is building power, there is lighting, there is insurance, there is depreciation. These are various expenses that are incurred by one particular area. So if that production department has let's say you have a rent, you have a factory. For the factory, you're paying that rent. So rent again needs to be apportioned to that particular product that you're making. So more or less allocation and apportionment has only one purpose, that is to put the cost into the product. But how it is being put, it's just given two different words, allocation and apportionment. So this is just a simple brief summary behind it. So if you see, there are various methods in which we can distribute the overheads to the product or the department. So first we can see rent, lighting, fire precaution services, air conditioning. These are all expenses that get incurred. These are all expenses that get incurred in the factory. So here we can see that. Just a minute. Okay, sorry about that. So you can see that rent can be distributed through the floor area. So what will happen is you might have like 5 factory machines that are present in one factory. So to allocate the rent for those 5 factories, you can see that the area taken by one machine is, let's say, 100 square feet. So 100 square feet worth rent will get allocated to that particular machine. So this way you can allocate the rent to the machines. Then we have labor welfare expenses, timekeeping, personnel office, supervision. So these are other employee-related expenses. This can be distributed on the basis of the number of workers that are present. Third, we have is compensation to workers, holiday pay, ESI, perquisites. This could possibly be distributed on the basis of the direct wages. So what you need to understand from, you don't have to mug this up, but what you need to understand is there are various ways in which you can allocate expenses and costs to the product or the production department. And these are the bases which we will be using. Generally, if you use just common sense, you will be able to understand what basis to use to distribute it. So the first thing that we are going to get into is these allocation and apportionment questions. So far, is everybody okay with my speed and is able to follow me with what I have said? Please let me know in the chat box. Is there anything you want me to repeat? Okay, perfect. So I think we're good till now. So let's proceed with starting our questions. So what I suggest is for students to take a screenshot of the question so that they can simultaneously, solve the questions as I'm also solving it alongside. Yeah. So let's begin with the first illustration. Excel Limited has 3 production departments and 4 service departments. The expenses for these departments as per primary distribution summary are as follows. Production department, Department A, Department B, Department C, 30 lakh, 26 lakhs, 24 lakhs. Service department, stores, timekeeping, power, canteen, 4 lakh, 3 lakh, 1 lakh 60,000, 1 lakh, total of 9 lakh 60,000. The following information is also available in respect of the production department. Let's look at the next slide. This is the following information that for department A, 300 hours of horsepower of machine, 300 horsepower of machine of 300 is used for department A. 300 of horsepower of machine for department C and 200 for department C. Number of workers 20, 15 and 15. Value of stores requisition in A, B and C is 2,50,000, 1,50,000, 1 lakh. Prepare a statement apportioning the cost of service departments over the production departments using direct redistribution method. So I hope it's you've taken the screenshots. So what I'll do is we will proceed with the answer. Okay. So before we proceed with the answer, to give you a little brief, because this is the first question. So what we can see in the question is we have 3 production departments, A, B, and C. So these are the main production departments that are producing the final product. Apart from this, you have a service departments of the stores, of the timekeeping department, of the power, of canteen. So there are multiple other service departments also contributing their services to these productions. So the most common thing to do is to distribute these expenses to the production departments. Now, how do we distribute these expenses to the production department? If you see here, we have some basis of distribution. We have horsepower given, we have number of workers given, we have value of stores requisition that is given. So if you look at the question, if you look at stores, definitely be on the basis of the value of stores requisition. If you look at timekeeping, it will be on the timekeeping and accounts is generally taken care by the workers. So number of workers will be used to distribute it. Power will be on the basis of horsepower of the machine. And canteen. What do you think about canteen? What would be the basis that would be used for distributing the canteen expenses? Can somebody let me know in the chat box? Number of workers. Perfect. Great. Well done. So number of workers, because canteen is of course run by workers only. So that will be the basis for which we will distribute it. So let's begin with solving this question. So first we have is the cost as per primary distribution, which is already given in the question. So here we have a total of 30 lakhs for production A, 26 lakhs for production B, and 24 lakhs for production C. That gives us a total of 80 lakhs. I hope you're solving along with me, everybody. We have the stores expenses. We will use the basis as the value of store requisition. Right? So that is a total of 4 lakh. And this will be divided on the basis of the ratio of We go back, it is 2.5 is to 1.5 is to 1. So we can use this as 4 into 2.5. That's divided by 30 minus 2 lakhs into 5, 1, 2 lakhs, 4 into 5 plus 80,000. Then we have the time account, timekeeping. This is the number of workers. We have a total of 3 lakhs. Number of workers is 20, 15, 15. So that will give us 20 plus 15 plus 15 will be 50. So 3 into 20 by 50. Oops. 1,20,000 into 50 into 15 by. Then we have power, which will be on the horsepower of machine. This is having a total of 1,50,000 rupees given in the question. Ratio will be 3:3:2. So this will be 3 by 8. Again, 3 by 8. If anybody finds the total answers of A, B, and C, you can put it in the chat box. 2 by 8. And last we have canteen. Number of workers. It will be 1 lakh. With the same ratio as above, which we took. Amal Krishna, have you found the answer? If you yes, you can put it in the chat box. Into 15 by 15. So here we can see that we have successfully allocated all the expenses to the production department. I hope everybody has followed along with me and has been able to get the answers. Please let me know. Is there any confusion or anything that you couldn't understand? You want me to repeat it? Please do let me know. Okay, how about the others? Yeah. Okay, perfect. That's wonderful. So I think this was a very simple question just to help you understand how you allocated expense to the some problem with my screen sharing. Let me just share it again. Just give me a minute. Okay, can everybody see my screen? Ma'am, I didn't get the ratio thing. Okay, let me explain. So for example, if you go back to the question, okay, let me explain. So we have something called we can see that we have production departments and service departments. I hope you've understood the difference between the two departments. Now, what happens with service department is you need to allocate this expense to the production departments. When you have to allocate this expense to the production departments, you need to have a basis, a ratio in which you can distributed. So what is the basis we use is given in the question itself. So for example, let's take the service department of timekeeping. Timekeeping of 3 lakhs, correct? So if you go into the question, timekeeping would generally be done by the workers. So how will you distribute it for the number of workers? You already have 20 for A, 15 for B, and 15 for C, correct? So if you look at the ratio, we have A, B, and C, right? So it's given to be 20 workers, 15 workers, and 15 workers, right? So you need to calculate the total of this. So that would be sum of 20 is to 15 is to 20 plus 15 plus 15. That gives you a total of 50, right? So this will become your ratio. Okay, it's clear, right? Perfect. Let's go back to the presentation. Proceeding with the next question. So next is the step method. Suppose the expenses of two production departments A and B and two service departments X and Y are as under. Department X, Y, A, B has an amount of 2 lakh, 1 lakh 50,000, 3 lakh, and 3 lakh 20,000. So here they've given you an apportionment basis. Department X amount and Department Y amount have to be apportioned between Y, A, B in 25%, 40%, 35% proportion. And Department Y has to be apportioned on the basis of 40% to 60% to Department A and B. Question is very simple. It's similar to the previous question. Only thing is that here we have a percentage distribution. In the previous one, you had a basis like number of workers and horsepower, etc. So this should be quite easy for all of you to solve. So try solving it and let me know the answers in the chat box. I will also solve this question simultaneously. So we have the amount given for X, Y, A and B. 2 lakh, 1 lakh 50,000, 3 lakh and 3 lakh 20,000, right? So this is our amount that is given in the question. Has everybody taken the screens? And I hope, if not, I will go back to the presentation again. Then we have the expense of Department X, the apportion. How do we apportion this? So we have to remove this entire 2 lakhs and allocate it in the ratio of, you can see, 25%, 40%, and 35%. Correct? So if you take your calculators and do a 25% of 2 lakhs, we get that as 50,000. If we do it for 40%, you get it as, do it the same way. 40% will give me 80,000. And this into 35% will give me 70,000. So this way we have allocated expense for Department X, then expense for Department Y is given to be 2 lakhs, right? We are getting it as 2 lakhs. Rania has got the answer. Perfect. That's the right answer. 2 lakhs. Then we have this into 40% and this into 60%. So now if you look at the totals, X is 0, Y is 0, and A and B comes to 46 lakhs, 4 lakh 60,000 and 5 lakh 10,000. So this is how the expenses get allocated. So now you must be wondering, why did we distribute X first and then we distributed Y? There is no reasoning behind this, but this is just how it has been allocated on the basis of how the information has been given in the question. So this is known as a simultaneous equation method, where simultaneously you are hello.
Minus 2 lakh in.
Yeah, because now Y has a total of 2 lakhs. Because we have distributed department X's amount to department Y based on the first apportionment. So when we get a total of Y, we will get a total of 2 lakhs for department Y. The reason why we have first distributed X and then we have distributed Y, there is no specific, it's not a thumb rule that it has to be done like this. But because we have, they have asked us to distribute it using a step method. If I go back to the question, it's telling that you need to distribute the amounts using a step method. So this is a step method where first you will allocate for department X and then you will distribute for department Y. So that's called a step method distribution. There is another method also, which is a more complicated method of how you will find out the amount to be distributed. But when you state step method, this is how it will be distributed. First you allocate for X, then you take the total, and then you allocate that amount for Y. Is it clear till now? The one who asked the doubt, is it clear? Do you want me to explain it again? Is it clear, everybody? Is there a doubt? Okay, how about the others? Okay. So I hope you've understood this is the step method. Yes. So step method, this is how it will be performed. Now I will definitely show you other methods also. Whatever is part of the syllabus will be illustrated here. So this is another question. It is called a simultaneous equation method. This is a little more complicated method because here it's not easily like, you just take one step, then next you distribute. It's not like that. You will actually find what is the amount. So let's read through the question. So these are our service departments. Boiler house is coming to 3 lakhs and pump room is coming to 60,000. The allocation basis is production department, boiler house is 60%, B is 35%. And you need to notice here, boiler house is a service department. Pump room is also a service department. But boiler house expenses are allocated to another service department as well. Then when you look at pump room is also a service department. Boiler house is also a service department. Pump room service expenses, sorry about that, has been allocated to another service department. So what you need to understand here is, so before I get into the question, just to explain it to you in Excel. What is happening here is we have a service department, right? We have a service department 1 and we have a service department. This has a, let's say it's given the expenses as 20,000 and this is given as 30,000. But now what they are saying is that a part of this 30,000 belongs to department 1, let's say around 500, right? And a part of this department belongs to service department, or part of the expense of department 1 belongs to department 2. So let's say 200. So in that case, let me look at it like this. So this will be minus 500 here because from here it is getting allocated to that department. And over here you will have 200 going to this department. So finally, our service departments will have these expenses. Okay. So what in the question they have given us that the service department's expenses, boiler house and pump room is 3 lakh and 60,000. So this is what is given in the question, right? Okay, before making any changes. But we need to accommodate for this 5% and 50% of allocation within the service department, which is this part, is what we need to calculate and then arrive at this amount, right? Okay. So I hope the question has been understood. So let's proceed. I hope you've taken the screenshot. Now let's proceed with the answer. The first thing we need to do is we don't know the final amount, right? So let's do one thing. Let's set up the boiler expenses to be B because we need to solve equations here. So let's take the boiler expenses as B and let's take the pump room expenses as. I hope everybody is understanding this step. Yeah. Now let's prepare for the equation. In the equation, we know that 3 lakh is equal to, no, we know that the boiler expenses is equal to 3 lakh plus the 5% of pump room expenses. Correct? So pump room expenses is again, we have kept it as P. So let's look at it this way. Pump room expenses P, so this will be, so P is equal to 3 lakh, which is already given, plus 50% of pump room expense. So you can see that boiler house has 50% of the pump room expenses and pump room has 5% of the boiler house expenses. Correct? So this is our first equation. That is the total of the boiler house will be 3 lakh plus 50% of the pump room expenses because we've kept pump room as P. And for equation 2, P is equal to 60,000 plus 5% of boiler room expense. This is the main part of the question. If everybody has understood this, we can proceed. But if not, I will repeat this calculation again. Please let me know if you want me to repeat this understanding again. Is it clear for everybody? Don't hesitate. If you did not understand anything, I can repeat it again. Okay, perfect. So I'm assuming that everybody has understood. Okay, great. So this is the main part of this simultaneous equation. Once we have understood this, everything is very easy. You just have to solve these equations. So let's proceed with solving these equations. So if you look at it, it will be B is equal to P lakh plus 50% of P and P is equal to 60,000 plus 5% of P. So let's put this formula into P. So that will come P is equal to 3 lakh plus 50% of P. So 50% of P we have found it as 60,000 plus 5% of P. So that will be 60,000 plus 5% of B. Okay, so I have just put this into a formula. Now let's solve it. So we have 50% of 60,000, which is 30,000 plus 30,000 plus 50% into 5% of 50 into 5%, which will be 2.5% of P. Correct. So 2.5 is nothing but 0.025. So if you bring the 0.025, that's at 1 minus 0.025, which will be 0.975. 0.975B is equal to 3,30,000. So B should be equal to 3,30,000 divided by 0.975. Is equal to 3,30,000 38,450 and P will be equal to 8,842 into 5% plus 60,000, which is 76,000. Has everybody? Yes, Rania, that's the perfect answer. How about the others? Did everybody arrive at these answers? Is everybody aware of how to solve the equations? So we perfect, yes. So we just had to, P amount is 76,923. Amal Krishna, did you also find that answer? So you just put, now once you found B, you put it in the second equation and solve for P. Okay, perfect. Amal Krishna, just let me know if you found the amount. If not, I will help you out. Okay, clear, perfect. Yes, P is 60,000 plus 5% of 3 lakh, 3,38,460. Okay, is this fine, Kartika? So that gives me 76,923. Cool. So I am going to proceed now with the next part of the same question. So here we can now start allocating. So we have the boiler house expense. We go back to the question. It's 60% and 35% to A and B. Now we will be taking the entire 3,38,000. 3,38,462 into 60%, which gives me 2,30,077 and 3,38,000 into 35% gives me 1,18,461. Then if we distribute the pump room expenses, we can see that it is 10% and 40%. So similarly, 76,923 into 10% will be for department A and 76,923 into 40% will be for department B. Is everybody clear? Has everybody understood what we did in this question and what was different? You just need to remember that one service department's expense is also part of another service department's expense. So you will need to be able to do these equations first in order to come with the exact amount of the final service department expense and then go ahead and distribute it to the various departments. But this part is the most crucial part to understand what is your broiler and pump room expenses. If it's clear, I will proceed with the next question. So this, I hope you know, is called the simultaneous equation method. In the previous one, in the step method, it was not at all complicated. We just distributed it and then we used the next line to like distribute the other one. Remember for department X and department Y. Somebody had asked me the doubt also. Okay, sure, Aisha. Please write it down. So in the previous question, when we saw the step method, it was very simple. You just directly distributed X, then you use the total amount and distributed Y. But in this simultaneous equation method, it will not be like that. You have to make two equations and find the actual amount and then distribute it to the production departments. Aisha, once you are done, let me know. I shall proceed with the next illustration. Have you written down, Aisha? Okay, great. Next is called the trial and error method. Okay, so another type of question with the method of trial and error. So let's read the question. SANS Limited is a manufacturing company having three production departments, A, B, and C, and two service departments, X and Y. The following is the budget for December 2022. A, B, C, X, and Y have a direct material of so much, direct wages of so much. Factory rent 4 lakh, power 2,50,000, depreciation 1 lakh, other overheads 90,000, 9 lakhs. Additional information. Area is given to be this much, capital value. So this will be used for a basis of allocation, machine hours and horsepower of machines. A technical assessment of apportionment of expense of service departments is as under. So service department X, 45% to A, 15% to B, 30% to C, and 10% to Y. Service department Y, 60% to A, 35% to B, nothing to C, 5% to X. Prepare a statement showing the distribution of overheads to the various departments. Prepare a statement showing the redistribution of service department expenses to production departments using trial and error method. So again, now the issue that is happening here is okay. So now what is happening in this question again is part of service is going to another service department. Part of this service is going to another service department. In this question, there are two parts. Okay, one is the distribution of overheads to various departments. So if you can see the question, first we already have these overheads, factory rent, power, depreciation overheads. So this we can normally distribute it and allocate it the way we learned it in the first question. This is this additional information. That is simple. The problem that will arise is when we come at the total of the X and Y, because X and Y are service departments. This X and Y, in which proportion will you distribute it? Because now we know again that there is a 10% in X, 10% of Y that is included in X, and 5% of X that is included, 5% of Y that is included in X. So in trial and error method, there is a different approach. So let's do the first part, which is the allocation of these expenses based on these information. So I hope you've taken a screenshot. Let's just discuss factory rent. What do you think factory rent will be distributed on the basis of? Let me know in the chat box. Area, perfect. Area, perfect. Okay, power. What about power? Perfect. Perfect. Horsepower of machines. What about depreciation? Asset value. And the other overheads? All the other overheads, which is written as other overheads. Area, DI. Anybody else? Machine hours. Perfect. Perfect. So please start solving the first part of the question, which is distributing these on the basis of the additional information. I shall also do it simultaneously. So let's begin. I hope everyone has taken the screenshot. This is direct. So it's given to be for X and Y. Okay, now please understand, we are calculating overheads to various departments, correct? With respect to service departments, I'm so sorry. With respect to direct material and direct wages, that will not be part of your overheads to department A, B, and C. Please remember that. We are only calculating the overheads for departments A, B, and C. So please do not include the direct material and direct wages for A, B, and C. However, when we are calculating the overheads total expenses for service departments, all the expenses will form part of service departments. So direct material, direct wages, overheads, everything will form part of the service departments. Everybody is clear about that? So if you see how I'm solving this question, I will not be including direct materials and direct wages for A, B, and C because we are only calculating the overheads for this. But for service department, it is X and Y. Let me highlight this so that everybody is clear. These are service departments. Here we will include all expenses. Okay. Direct material is given to be 2 lakhs. Y is given to be 1 lakh. Then we have direct labor wages, that is given to be 1 lakh. And it's given to be 2 lakhs. Okay. Now we go into factory rent. Factory rent is to be divided by the area. We have a total amount of 4 lakh. And the area is given to be 500, 250, 500, 250, 500. So if we had to total this up, 500 plus 50, 2000, correct? Into thank you, Aman Krishna. Thank you for that. Into 100. I'm just quickly solving this. So if you are not able to follow what I'm doing, please ping immediately. I will explain it to you. I'm assuming that everybody has got an idea of how to resolve these questions. That's why I'm not getting into much details for the allocation. We will be using horsepower per power, a total of 2,50,000. So here we have horsepower. The total is 50 plus 40 plus 20 plus 15 plus 25. If anybody has gotten it, can you let me know in the chat box? Coming to 150. Thank you so much. 150 seconds into 50. 150. Oops. Okay, just to clarify, students, when you say horsepower, it will not be a total of only the horsepower of the machines. This power needs to be multiplied with your machine hours. Okay, so this will be horsepower into your machine hours. So this is a method that our institute is using. Ideally, you can be able to use your horsepower as well, but as the institute is following horsepower into machine hours, it's better to use it in that format itself. So in that case, it will not be just 150. Can you recalculate that for me, everybody? Okay, so just to give you a little bit of a working note here with respect to the power. Okay, because the power will not be utilized alone, right? It has to be utilized with the machine hours. The horsepower into the machine hours will become your mode of the basis of allocation. So if you look at it this way, we have the horsepower and we have the machine hours. Correct? If you look at it as A, B, C, X, Y, we have a horsepower of 50, 40, 20, 15, and 25. Correct? And we have machine hours of 1000, 2000, 4000, 1000, and 1000. Now what we will do is we will be multiplying this with each other. Right? This will give us our basis for apportion. Now you take a total of this and then you will come with your basis of how to allocate your power. Is everybody clear with it? So this will be the ratio. Please let me know if you followed this. If not, I shall do it again. I shall explain it to you again. Please let me know if you've understood what is the ratio we'll be using for power. Is it clear? Okay, perfect. Perfect. So that will be this. From what we found, 50,000 by 250, 50. Then we have seen it as 80,000, 80 by 250. Then we have same one, 80 by 250. Then it will be 15,000. And the last one will be 25,000. I hope it's clear till now. So this is how you will use for power. So power has a different way of being apportioned because you will be considering horsepower into machine hours. Proceeding with the next ones. Next one is straightforward, depreciation and overheads. So this will be on the basis of capital value. So the total of depreciation is 1 lakh. Capital value is given to D, 20, 40, 20, 10. And these are in lakhs, but that's okay. That comes up to 100, right? So this will be into 20 by 100, coming to 20,000. 40 by 100. 20, again, so to be same. 10, 500. Okay. This was straightforward. Then we have the other overheads. which will be distributed on the basis of machine hours alone. Here we don't have to do horsepower into machine hours because this is not power, this is just normal other overheads. So we can add up all our machine hours here, which comes up to 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Correct? It's 9. So we have a total of 9 lakhs. So this should be pretty straightforward. This will be into 1 by 9. Into 2 by 9. Into 4 by 9. Equal to into 1 by 9. Into 1 by 9. So now we can take total of everything. 555. This is our total. Has everyone arrived till these answers? Please let me know. I think somebody has already given this. Yes, Rania was perfectly right. These are the answers. How about the others? Have you been able to arrive at these answers? Everybody?
Ma'am,
Yes.
can you please provide study material in group?
Do you want my PowerPoint?
Problem questions.
Okay, sure. You want me to send it right now?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, fine. Just give me a moment. Which is the students group? How do I send it there? Can one of you maybe share your number? Okay. I will be sending it to Amal Krishna. Amal Krishna, okay, I have sent it to him and I have sent it to Rizwan as well. Please let me know once you have received the PPT. Yes, please forward it as needed. Once everyone has received it, I can just proceed. Okay, so I'll proceed now, yeah? Is that okay? So everyone is clear till here, right? Can I proceed? Please let me know. Okay, okay, great. So now comes to the main part. This was a very simple part of the question. Now you need to understand the redistribution of the service department expenses. I think you are aware that X and Y are the service departments. So we will just highlight this so that you are aware that these are the expenses that we need to distribute. However, as per the question, service department X has 10% of department X is going to Y and 5% of department Y is going to X. So how trial and error method works is you will keep redistributing this expense to each other 10%, 5%, 10%, 5% till the final amount comes to a very negligible amount. So how that takes place is, please have a look. So we know that department X expenses to department Y is 10%. So what is that? So let's distribute department X to department Y at 10%. We know that it is 10%. So first we know is the actual overheads. We have quoted as 4,75,000 and for Y it is 5,35,000. Now department X to department Y. So first we will do is this.
Yes, we'll share it. I'll share it.
It's shared, right? Okay, into 10%. Then we will do department. Then we will take a total. We get it as 5,82,000. Now we will distribute department Y to department X at 5%. It should be this into 5%. It will come to 29,000. Now we will again distribute department X. Yeah, perfect, Rania. Department X to department Y. So that will only be for the remaining amount. Don't take the total amount, 4,75,000 plus 29,125. Then it doesn't make sense. Only the remaining amount we need to keep distributing. So that will be this into 10%. Then we have apportionment of department Y to department X at 5%. Here you will only be taking this remaining amount into 5%. So we can see that it's come down to 146, which is a very, very negligible amount. So you don't keep doing this. Now you can stop it. You can do a total of this. If you want, you can further proceed and bring it to an absolutely zero amount. But 146 is also a very small amount. So we can stop the trial and error method of allocating and take the total now. That comes to So this is your trial and error method. So just to give you a little insight, the previous method that we used, the simultaneous equation method, let me just go back. This method, correct? Where we are giving it a variable and applying it and then resolving and finding the final amounts versus this method, trial and error method, will actually give you the same amount. Department Y to X at, is that amount correct? At 5%. Yes, that's correct. At 5%. Is there a doubt with the percentage, Aisha? Clear? Perfect. So this is what you need to understand, that if you would have used the simultaneous equation method versus if you would have used this trial and error method, you will finally get the same answer. This amount would be the same, but it's just that the way of doing it is different. Here you have to do a simultaneous way, but that would be more accurate than this. So this is something you're just using a trial and error method. You're going on distributing, and then finally finding the final amount to be distributed. So once you have found this amount, we can go ahead and distribute this service amount. So we have already gotten the amount, we have already gotten the amount as a primary distribution from above, which has come to 2,70,000, 3,70,000 and 6 lakhs. Then we have the department X, which is our service department. And if you go back to the question, it's at 45%, 15% and 30%. So it is equal to this into 45%, this into 35%, and this into 30%, right? And then we have department Y, which is equal to this into 60%, and we have this into 35%. So we get a total of 5%. This is your final amount to be distributed. Is everybody with me? Is everybody following? Has everybody understood? The steps were simple. The first thing is you find out what is the amount in X and Y. Then as per the question, we have to perform a trial and error method and distribute 5%, 10% simultaneously, and finally arrive at an answer for the X and Y departments. And then you can use that amount to distribute it to the production departments and find the final production department amounts. Are we clear? Can we proceed to the next illustration? Okay, how about the others? Just this one illustration and then we'll take a quick 5-minute break. Yeah, so let's look at the question. Taking all the information from illustration 4 above, prepare a statement showing redistribution of service department expenses to production department using repeated distribution method. Also calculate machine hour rates of the production departments A, B, and C. So now there's something called as repeated distribution. So first, I think you understood was the step method. Second, we looked at simultaneous equation method. Third, we looked at trial and error method. And the last type is known as repeated distribution method. So if you look at repeated distribution method, for your understanding. Okay. What happens in repeated distribution? In repeated distribution method, just like in trial and error method, you keep redistributing it, but here we have to arrive at the most negligible amount, similar to trial and error method, but here we don't separately find it out. We will do it as part of our answer itself. So please see how that's done. So the first thing is, let's take the amount from the above. So we have our total overheads. We have already found it out. No need to sit and do it again. We already have the amount here. Just take it from here for B, C, X, and Y. This we have already found it, correct? Now we start distributing X and Y amounts at 10%. So department X allocation will be, we will take this down, and we know that this will be, we know that the percentage of this was 40%, so it was 45%, right? Right? This was 15%. This is from the question itself. There's nothing to use your brain here. From the question itself, we have found this into 30%. This into 10%. So did you see what I'm doing here? I am directly allocating it to A, B, C, and Y. I'm not finding out separate amounts of X and Y and then distributing. Right? So this is a repeated distribution method. Let me just change. So this is being distributed in the percentages given in the question. Now coming to department Y. Department Y, we can see that the total is coming to 582, 500. So let's do that. Minus this, minus this. So we'll reduce that. We'll bring it to 0. Here we're going to use into 60% given in the question. This into 30% given in the question, 35%. Here it is 0, nothing in the question. This into 5%, right? 5% goes to X. So we have distributed everything amongst the others. Coming to the next thing. So now what we can see is there's still a balance of 29,125. So again, we go ahead and distribute. Department X is equal to, so first we just make this minus, is equal to into 25% is equal to into 15% is equal to into 30% is equal to into 10%. So again, there is a small amount pending. So again, we will distribute it. Department Y is equal to, first we will do 0 is equal to into 60% is equal to 35%. This is 0 is equal to into 5%. So again, we can see there is a small amount left of 146. In the trial and error method, we stop. You can stop it here as well. But in the question, they have gone all the way to arrive at a single digit for this one. So let's do a department X. Sorry. It's not 0. Okay, see, what I meant is like when you take the total of X, there's still a 146 left, right? And the purpose is we have to remove the amounts in X and Y completely, because we have to arrive it at 0. Clear? So again, this is a long process, but there is a type, if it comes in the exam, repeated redistribution, then this is what you'll have to use. So again, department X, 45% into 15% into 30% into 10%. Again, there's a small amount of 15 left. So let's see if we can remove this 15 as well in this one. Department Y is equal to into 60% equal to into 35% and is equal to 0, and this is equal to into 5%. So here we can see we have come to a negligible amount, which is 1, right? As good as 0. So what we can do is we can adjust this 0.72 into 5.096. So ideally, I am doing this in Excel so we can see that, the amounts are having a lot of decimal places. But ideally, I don't think you need to keep so many decimals if you just do it this way. So you're getting a 6 here and you're getting a 1 here, correct? So what you can do is you can transfer this 1 to 5. Do it till the balance in any of the department comes to 0. Should we do it until it goes to 0? Ideally, see, if the balance is coming to 9, that you cannot adjust it, right? 9 is too heavy a number. 1 or 2 is something you can adjust it with something else. So it has to come to almost 0. It has to come to almost. Is that clear, Anya? We can just put this as +1. And we can make this as 0. So this is a manual adjustment that we have to do. And then we can get our total amounts over here. You can see how we have brought this down to 0. Yeah. And these will be our final amounts that have been allocated to A, B, and C. Now, calculation of machine hour rate is very simple to take the total overheads. I will get into the details of machine hour rate in our next illustration. But here, just keep it simple. Machine hour rate will be the total overheads by the machine hours. For right now, just you need to understand that. So we have it in the question. Machine hours to be given as 1,000, 2,000, 4,000. So it's very simple, 1,000, 2,000, and 4,000. So machine hour rate will be this divided by 1,000. Okay. Let me know if this was clear, this question was clear. Is there any confusion? Okay, how about the others? Okay, I hope it's clear for the others. So all we did was we did a repeated redistribution in this. So we did not take it to a separate account and then distribute it. We directly started distributing till if we got to a point it was 0. Okay, so let's take a quick 5-minute break, and by what's the time there? 2:35. Let's be back by 2:35. Okay.
Ma'am. Hello. Hello, ma'am. ആരേലുണ്ടോ?
Hello.
നമ്മളെ ഫസ്റ്റ് ഇല്ലസ്ട്രേഷൻ വണ്ണില്ലേ, അതിലെ നമ്പർ ഓഫ് വർക്കേഴ്സിന്റെ അടുത്താണ് 3 lakh അല്ലേ?
അതെ.
അത് പക്ഷെ 4 lakh അല്ലേ എടുക്കേണ്ടത്? ക്യാൻറ്റീനും ടൈം കീപ്പിംഗ് ആൻഡ് അക്കൗണ്ടിങ് രണ്ടും ഇതല്ലേ?
നോക്കട്ടെ.
അത് രണ്ടും ടൈമിന്റെ കീഴിൽ വരുന്നതല്ലേ? സോറി, നമ്പർ ഓഫ് വർക്കേഴ്സിന്റെ. ഹലോ,
നോക്കട്ടെ കേട്ടോ.
നോക്കിട്ട് പറയാം. ഹലോ, ആരെല്ലാം നോക്കിയോ? Everybody check the answer. Ma'am,
Hello.
can you please come to first illustration?
First illustration, just a minute. Yes.
In that number of workers column, it's
Okay.
mentioned 3 lakh, 3 lakh.
Number of workers.
Yeah,
3 lakhs. Where is it mentioned?
service department.
Yes, timekeeping and accounts, 3 lakhs.
Then it is mentioned is 3 lakh, but actually it is 4 lakh.
Let me just check.
Because timekeeping and canteen came under number of workers. Any mistake there?
You're saying in the answer that we did, we took it as 4 lakhs?
Yeah, answer. Yeah.
No,
Yeah,
taken
that-
as 3 lakhs only, right?
Why?
Because timekeeping is said to be 3 lakhs, right?
Then canteen also come under number of
Correct, correct.
workers.
So we have taken that separately, no?
Oh, separate. Okay, okay, ma'am.
Yes, yes. Okay.
Okay, clear.
Yeah. Everybody else, are you back? Please let me know in the chat. Shall we proceed with the next part? Okay, how about the others? Please let me know. Ma'am, can you please show the fifth illustration question? Okay. This one, Aisha? Is the PPT not yet shared with everybody? Okay. So let's begin now with the next part. So till now we were doing about allocation of expenses, the service department expenses, etc., into the production department. Now what we're going to do is we are going to understand how we will absorb the overheads into the good units. So for example, let me this would be easier explained if I take my Excel. Okay. So coming to absorption. So let's take a practical example so that you understand this concept easily. Let's say we are at 1st June 2023. We are estimating that we will be able to sell 20 laptops this month for the month of June. So when you are calculating the costing, you know that the direct material which will be used will be 500 rupees. Direct labor that will be used will be 500 rupees, coming to a total cost of 1000. But you know that at the end of the month, there will be the laptop is being produced, let's say the components is being produced by a machine. That machine needs some repairs. And you know that every month or every quarter, there is some repairs that go to that machine, which is worth 1000 rupees. What happens is, when you are actually selling that product, your amount would have not been due. That amount for that repair is not due because that repair will happen at the end of the month or at the end of the quarter. So you don't know how much is going to be spent. So as an organization, you will not just ignore that repair amount because that repair is going to go for a machine and that machine is going to be used to make this product. So you have to include that component into that product today. So how will you do it? Organizations will always use an estimated overhead rate. How is this estimated overhead rate calculated? So there is a predetermined rate that is calculated. So if you look at the formula, you know that 1000 rupees is an estimate. You're estimating that 1000 rupees worth repairs will be made. So you take that cost. You're estimating that you will be able to sell 20 units this month, total units that will be produced. So you divide this repairs by the total units and you will get a rate per unit. 50 rupees per unit is an estimated rate that you will absorb into the good units as an overhead rate. So if you see, from the 1000 rupees, we added that overhead rate of 50 rupees and we made our final cost as 1050. So this amount, so let me show you again, it's calculated by this estimated amount divided by the estimated number of units. This is just an example. It could be divided by estimated hours, it could be divided by estimated wages, anything. But right now we are doing it on the basis of estimated units. So when we do it on the basis of estimated units, we get a predetermined overhead rate per unit. Overhead rate per unit of 50. And when you take the total of it, you finally get at a overhead amount of 1050. So everybody is clear about how this predetermined rate is calculated. Please remember, it is an estimated rate based on what expenses you are estimating, what production you are estimating, how many hours you are estimating to work. You will today itself decide one predetermined. That's why it's called a predetermined rate. You're determining it in advance. And using that rate, you will absorb the overhead into the production units. So this, whatever we were calculating, right, till now, the overhead amount for production A, production B, production C, that is this sum, 1000. And that will now get absorbed into your good units at a predetermined rate. So everybody's clear with the concept of absorption? Okay. So let's move to the, so it can be based on the, like now I told units, it can also be based on labor hours, it can be based on assembly hours, machine hours, according to the question it can change. So you don't have to be fixed that it is only per unit. No, you can have something called machine hour rate per hour, right? So different bases you can have. So first we look into machine hour, which is the most commonly used basis for the rate calculation. Okay. So let's look into this question. A machine costing 1 crore. Just a minute, guys. Okay. A machine costing 1 crores is expected to run for 10 years. At the end of this period, its scrap value is likely to be 9 lakh rupees. Repairs during the whole life of the machine are expected to be 18 lakh rupees and the machine is expected to run. Please remember, expected expenses expected to run for 4,380 hours per year on an average. Its electricity consumption is 15 units per hour, the rate per unit being 5. The machine occupies 1/4 of the area of the department and has 2 points of a total of 10 for lighting. The foreman has to devote about 1/6 of his time to the machine. The monthly rent of the department is 30,000 rupees and the lighting charges amount to 8,000 per month. The foreman is paid a monthly salary of 19,200 rupees. Find out the machine hour rate, assuming insurance is at 1% per annum and the expenses on oil, etc. are 900 rupees per month. Okay. There's a lot of information here. It might not be easy to comprehend on the first one. But what you can see is what it has asked. It has asked to find out the machine hour rate. Please remember, when we say machine hour rate, what is a machine hour rate? It will be the, if I just give you here, machine hour rate is the estimated overhead expenses divided by the estimated number of hours the machine will run. I hope this is clear. What is a machine hour rate? So the rate per hour of that machine being run. There are multiple expenses given here. So let's break it down. So we have this would be the depreciation. We can use this for calculating the depreciation expenses. Am I right? The cost, scrap value, and 10 years is for the depreciation. Then we have something called as the repairs expenses. Then we have an electricity consumption. Then we have foreman has devoted the monthly. We have a rental expense here. We have a lighting charges. We have the foreman's salary. And we have the insurance at 1% and the expenses of oil. So roughly you can say that we can divide these expenses into fixed and variable. Depreciation is a fixed expense. Repairs would become a variable expense. Depends actually. You can keep it as fixed as well, but in this question, we will take it as variable. Electricity consumption, variable expense. Monthly rent, a fixed expense. Lighting charges, fixed expense. Salary is a fixed expense. Insurance, fixed. Expenses on oil will be variable. So first thing we need to do is we need to calculate the cost of this overheads. So let's look into the answer. So if you can see, most of the expenses have been given for the month. So let's calculate the total expenses for the month and then convert it into hours. The first step would be to calculate how much is the total hours per annum. It's given to be 4,380. It's going to be run for 4,380. It's already given. And if you give it by month, divided by 12. Machine hour rate equation. Do you want me to show it again? This one? Okay. Clear? So this way we have got the total hours per month. Now, what would be the depreciation per month? I think depreciation per month shouldn't be a difficult calculation. It will be 1 crore minus 9 lakhs divided by 10. But here it will be 10 years into 12 months, right? Because we will have to calculate it for months. So that will be 1 crore minus 9 lakhs divided by 10 years. Simple formula, 1 crore minus 9 lakhs divided by 10 years. This divided by 12 months will give me the depreciation per month. Clear till here? Perfect, perfect. So now we can go ahead and start jotting down our calculations of the costs. So first we have our depreciation, which we have already calculated. Per month it is coming to 75,833. Then we have our rent. Rent is said to be, we're going to be using only 1/4, right? 1/4 of the area. These things are very important. Please note that you need to remember all these things when you're calculating. So 1/4 will become 30,000 divided by 4. So that will be the rent expense. Lighting charges is going to be using has 2 points out of total of 10 for lighting. So the total lighting charges is coming to 8,000 per month. So we are just going to be using 2 points. So 8,000 into 2 by 10 points. Okay. Then foreman salary is given to be for 1/6 only. So that will be into 19,200 divided by 6. Correct. Then we have some other expenses. The oil expense is considered to be fixed. Okay, let's take it as fixed in this case. It's already 900. And then we have the insurance, which is 1% of the value of the machine. So that will be 1 crore into 1% divided by 12 months. 8,333. That comes to a total fixed cost of 97,367. Please remember, this is for the entire month. We need it for the hour because we're calculating machine hour rate. So this divided by the number of hours in a month, which is 365, will give me 267, 266.75. I hope everybody is following me till here. Then we have the variable cost. It's the repairs. So for repairs, what we have done is we have calculated the total 18 lakhs for the 10 years. Okay. So if you go to the question, we can see that repairs for the whole life is expected to be 18 lakhs, right? And the machine is expected to run 4,080 hours per year on average. So if I have to do a small working here, we have repair cost as 18 lakhs, correct? This is for 10 years. So that will be 4,380 into 10 years. Amal Krishna 266. Just a minute. Okay, fine. I'll explain that. So what is the method we are following to calculate a machine hour rate? As I told you, it is the estimated overhead by the estimated number of hours. Correct? And here, if you see, we have estimated that the number of hours that the machine will be put to use. It's 4,380 is already given, estimated for the year. We have brought it down for the month. Then we calculated the expenses for the month and we have calculated the expense per hour by dividing it with the number of hours, 365. Because 365 is the number of hours it will be put to use in a month. Amar Krishna, does that clarify or are you still confused? Yeah, okay, great. So coming back to our repairs cost. So repair cost is given to be 8 lakh and it is said to be that it's going to be utilized for 10 years, the machine. We are going to do a 4380 into 10 years. So that should give us a repair cost of 41 rupees per hour. I don't know if you are able to understand this. Let me change the way I'm writing it into 10 years because this is a repair cost for 10 years. Hours for 10 years. That gives us a repair of 18 lakhs divided by 43,800. Is clear? Everybody able to understand the whole unitary method where we are multiplying it with the number of years because the asset is being put to use for 10 years. Is it clear? Want me to explain this again? Anybody? Please let me know. Okay, so we got a repair cost of 41.1. The other expenses, electricity, is given to be for 15 units at rupees 5. So our machine hour rate can be easily calculated as 266 plus 41 plus 75, which is 382.85. So the main thing you need to understand in a machine hour rate calculation is first the calculation of the overhead amount, and then you convert it into a per hour rate. So this is your overhead which is given in the question. We divided it by the total number of hours the machine is used for the month, and we have gotten a per hour rate of 382.85. Asset value. Wait, I'll show you the formula. So it's a 1 crore into 1% divided by 12. Here. Okay, so let's practice maybe one more question and then everybody will get some clarity because I think I can sense confusion, but okay, let's do one more question and I hope we'll get a little bit more, we'll get a bit more hang of these type of questions. Okay, so a machine shop center contains 3 machines of equal capacities. Okay, there is 3 machines here. So one thing you need to understand is whenever you do the question, please the screen last answer. Okay. 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 Yeah. So now, whenever you look at the question, especially machine hour rate questions, please see for how many units it has been given, how much, what period it's asking you to calculate it for. These things are very important to be seen in the machine hour rate questions. So here, if you can see the question already says that a machine shop cost center contains 3 machines of equal capacities. To operate, to operate these 3 machines, 9 operators are required. Okay. Are required 3 operators on each machine. So we need only for 1 machine. So if you look at the question, calculate the cost before I get into the depth of the question. Calculate the cost of running 1 machine for a 4-week period. So in your head, you need to always keep in mind 1 machine, 4-week period. What are the expenses? Okay. 3 operators on each machine. Operators are paid 20 per hour. The factory works for 48 hours in a week, which includes 4 hours of setup time. The work is jointly done by operators. The operators are paid fully for 48 hours. In addition, they are paid a bonus of 10% of productive time. Costs are voted for this company on the basis of 13 4-weekly period. So please note this. It is for 13 4-weekly periods. We just need it for 1 4-weekly period. The company, for the purpose of computing machine hour rate, includes the direct wages of the operator and also recoups the factory overheads allocated to the machines. The following details of factory overheads applicable to the cost center are available. Depreciation 10% per annum, original cost 52,000. Maintenance and repairs per week 60 rupees. Consumables per stores per week 75 rupees. Power 20 units per machine at the rate of 80 paise per unit. No power is used in the setting up of the machine. Apportionment to the cost center, rent per annum 5,400, heat and light per annum 9,720, foreman salary per annum 12,960, and other miscellaneous expenditure 18,000. So before getting into the question, try to break down your costs and expenses in the question itself. So please highlight wherever you see that there are expenses. So depreciation is an expense, power is an expense. Here we've already highlighted whatever is the expenses. Then when we move to the next, we can see there is a rental expense, there's a lighting expense, there's a salary expense, and there is a miscellaneous expenditure expense. So how we can segregate these expenses is expenses that these expenses are not directly related to the machine. It is probably related to the entire factory in which the machine is. So we can treat these expenses separately, and we can treat these expenses separately. So this is how we can bifurcate expenses in our answer. Okay, so I hope everybody can follow what we have done till now. So the first step will always be for a machine hour rate question to calculate the effective machine hours for that period. So we know that the machine is working we have to calculate for a 4-week period. If you go back to the question, there is a point here that is written as the factory works. Let me take another one. Yeah, it's written here that the factory works for 48 hours in a week, which includes 4 hours of setup time. When you say 4 hours of setup time will become a unproductive or inefficient time, because you can see that no power is used during the setup hours. So it is basically dead at that time. So we will not be considering the setup hours in our effective hours. So let's go ahead and calculate our effective hours of the 4-hour period. So we know that effective hours will be the total working hours of the machine minus the total setup time. Total working hours is given to be 48 hours per week. So that would be 48 hours into 4 weeks. Correct? 48 hours into 4 weeks. Minus 4 hours into 4 weeks. Because this is the unproductive time, So if you do that, 48 into 4 minus 4 into 4, that gives you 176 hours. Has everybody arrived at this figure? So what is 176 hours? It is the effective machine hours for the 4-week period. Yeah, everybody's clear? Can I proceed from here? Is the effective machine hours calculation clear to everybody? Okay. How about the others? Okay. So this is the first step of a machine hour rate where we need to calculate the effective machine hours. So we have calculated that, and now we will be proceeding to the calculation of the total overheads. So like I said, let's bifurcate the expenses into two parts: standing charges and machine expenses. So these expenses are the standing charges. That is, it is not directly related to the machine. It is related to the expenses where the machine is located. And these are expenses directly related to the machine. So it's just for ease of computation, so that when in the exam, when you're trying to solve the question, you have some clarity as to how you're proceeding with the question. So this is how we have bifurcated it as standing charges and machine expenses. So let's start with the first one, which is rent is already given. So rent is given to be 5,400 per annum. These are per annum costs, and then we will divide it by the number of hours. So let's just write it down. 5,400. Heat and light is given to be 9,720 rupees. Foreman's salary is given to be 12,960 rupees. Other expenses given to be 18,000 rupees. So the total standing charges is coming to 46,008. Now, what we need to calculate is hours for the 4-week period. Correct? So what we need to understand is, we look back at the question. The machine shop center. So then the machine shop center contains 3 machines, correct? And we are now calculating the cost of that shop center where the machine is located. So we know that it is having 3 machines, and in a year we have 13 4-weekly periods. So we need it for 1 machine and we need it for 1 4-weekly period. So if you go back to the answer, this 46,000 is for 3 machines, and this is for 13 4-weekly periods. So how do we calculate it for 1 machine and for 1 4-weekly period? It's simple. We'll just take this amount divided by 3 machines divided by 13. That will give you 1,181. What we have done is, we know that this expense, which is for the total shop center, is for 3 machines and for 13 weekly periods. But we needed only for 1 machine and 1 weekly period, 4 weekly period, right? So we are going to divide it by 3 and divide it by 13 to arrive at for 1 machine, 1. Okay, do you want me to show you the formula again? So we will do the total cost, which is for 3 machines. So we bring it down to 1 machine. That is this much. So this is the cost per machine. Okay, let me break it down this way. Okay, but this is for the year. And the year has 13 4-weekly periods, but we need only for 1 4-weekly period. So let's find out the cost per machine for 1 4-weekly period. So that will be this divided by 13. So we get it at 1181.54. Is this clear, everybody? At how we came up to 1181.54? Okay, maybe let me give you a little clarity on what is this 13 weekly period and 1 weekly period. You know that every month has 4 weeks, correct? Generally, every month has 4 weeks. So what happens is, in a year, we end up having 52 weeks. We have 52 weeks in a year. So if I divide 52 weeks by 4, I'll get 30, correct? But I just need it for 1 4-weekly period, which is technically like for 1 month. So that is why instead of 13, I just need it for 1 and I divide it by that 30. So I have the cost per machine for the year and I divide it by 13 and get it for 1 month. Technically 12 would be 1 month, but because we're taking weekly, we have that 1 additional week here. and we are arriving at 1181.54 for the 4 weekly period. If everybody is clear with this, then I can proceed to the next uh, component of this question. Please let me know in the chat box. Is there anything that is not understood here at how we arrived at this amount? Is it unclear? Okay, I think you want me to repeat it again. Has everybody understood? Okay. Has everybody understood how we arrived at 46,080? Please let me know yes or no. Okay, so 46,080 is clear. Has everyone understood how we came at 15,360? No. Okay. What we have to see is when you go back to the question, it says that the machine shop contains 3 machines. But we don't need the cost for all the 3 machines. We need the cost only for one machine. And this total cost is belonging to the whole machine shop, which contains all the 3 machines. So let's say we are producing a Coca-Cola bottle. We are having the production, we are having the packaging, we have the printing machine. 3 machines are there in the same shop. But we don't want to calculate for all the 3 machines. We want to calculate only for the printing machine. So instead of taking the entire cost, we are dividing it by the 3 machines. And for one machine, we are arriving at 15,360, which is 46,080 divided by 3. Is it clear now? Is this much clear? How about Amal Krishna? Clear. Okay, perfect. Everybody else is also clear, right? Please let me know in the chat box. Okay. Now coming to 1181.5. So what you need to understand is this 15,360 is for the year. A year contains, let's not take this 4 weekly period. Okay, don't confuse yourself with 4 weekly period. Let's say 13 periods. A year contains 13 periods. Okay, we needed only for one period. So now what we'll do, we'll divide this by 13 and we'll get it for one period. Is this clear? This much is clear. This concept is clear that it is 1181 is the cost for one period. Okay, I think it's still not clear. Cost for one period. Clear? Okay. So cost for one period is coming to 1181.5. Okay. And now what you need to understand is in one period, there are 4 weeks. That's all. You don't have to get into the details of how many weeks are there. But just for your information, one period is equal to 4 weeks. That's it. But in your head, think it as one period. We are calculating it as one period. Is that okay? Now does it make sense? This is the cost per machine for one period. I think now it's clear. Yes. So we have the cost per machine for 1 period. Let's move to the machine expenses now. So we have depreciation, of course, but let's start with the easier ones. We have wages, right? Let's start with the first one, which is wages. Now wages is, again, it is telling that we need 3 operators for each machine, and each operator is paid for 20 per hour. And the factory works for 48 hours in a week, which includes 4 hours setup time. So we can directly calculate how much is the total cost. For the 4 weeks. Okay. Now look at the formula. Wait. Be very attentive to what is the formula for the wages. We have 3 operators. Clear? Please mention yes in the chat box if you're following with every part of this equation. We have 3 operators for each machine. Clear? Okay. We know that each operator is being paid for 48 hours. He's working for 48 hours. Okay. And for each hour, he's paid 20 rupees. Okay. And he is going to be working for, and we need the cost for 4 weeks. Each week has 48 hours, and for 4 weeks, we will need 4 into 48 hours. Is this clear? Okay, perfect. So that will be 3 into 20 rupees into 48 hours into 4 weeks, which will give me 8,352. Not 24, 48, sorry. It will give me 16. What's happening? Sorry, 48 into 4, and this will be 20. So that should give me 11,520 for the 4 weeks. Is everybody clear and following with me till here? Okay. Then we have bonus. Okay, perfect. Then we have bonus. Now bonus again for 3 operators, and for each operator, how does the bonus get calculated? Let's go back to the question. It says that in addition to the normal wages, they are paid a bonus of 10% of the productive time, right? So now, remember one thing, the 20 rupees was paid for productive plus unproductive. That's why we took the entire 48 hours and not just 48 minus 4 hours. But now we're not going to take 48 hours. We are only going to take the productive time. Can somebody please tell me how much did we calculate the productive hours for? We had calculated the effective hours, right? Can somebody tell me in the chat box what was the productive hours? Perfect, 176, that's correct. So initially we had calculated the effective hours. So this is the productive hours when it is being worked for. So we are only going to take the bonus for 176 hours. So 176 hours into 20 rupees into 10%. Is this formula clear? 176 into 20 rupees into 10%. Into 3. I missed the 3 operators. Into 3 operators, not just for 1, because 3 operators are being used for 1 machine. So we'll get 1056. Amal Krishna, I hope you corrected yourself. It's not just for 1 operator, we will be using it for 3 operators. Has everyone arrived at 1056? And we still not come at the machine expenses. This is still part of your standing charges. Okay, because wages and bonus is again something for the total, right? We have come to a total standing charges of 1,181 plus 11,520 plus 1,056. So this is the total standing charges of 4-week period for one machine. Is everybody clear about all the calculations here? If there's any calculation you want me to repeat, please let me know and I will do it right away. Clear? How about the others? Okay, perfect. Now we'll move into the actual machine related expenses. Okay, so the first one being the depreciation. I think depreciation shouldn't be much of a hassle. You should be able to calculate it. So that will be 52,000 rupees into 10% divided by 13. I hope everybody is now understanding why I did the divided by 30. It is the same concept as this one. Clear? Everybody is clear with why I did divided by 13. Do you want me to repeat this? Exactly. Perfect. How about the others? Let me write it down again for clarity. We know that depreciation is already given in the question to be 10% per annum of the original cost. Original cost being 52,000. What is the depreciation for the year? 52,000 rupees into 10%. Correct? But we need it, and this is for the year, which has 13 periods. But we need it only for that one period. So we will do that is 1,000 divided by, first is into 10%, which is the amount for the year. Then we do this divided by 13, which will give us for the 4-week period. Perfect, Amal Krishna. How about the others? Is this concept clear now about how we're dividing by 13? Clear, that's great. How about the others? Did everybody understand how we did the 3, why we divided by 13? Please remember, in a year, we have 13 periods. We need it only for one period. So it's simple. We just have to take the yearly amount and divide it by 30. We will arrive at the one period, which is including 4 weeks, but we need it only for that one period. Okay. Then we have repairs and maintenance. It's given to be 60 rupees per week. So we will do 60 rupees into 4 weeks, which will be 60 into 4 to 40. Then we have consumables, stores, which will be 75 rupees into 4 weeks, which will be 75 into 300 rupees. Then we have power, which is 176 hours. So let's go back to the question. 20 units per hour per machine at the rate of 80 paise per unit. No power is used during the setup hours. So what do you think? What would be the total number of hours for which we will calculate the power? Can anybody tell me in the chat box? It's written that power will not be used in the setup hours. So what will be the total hours we use to calculate the power expense? Can somebody tell me in the chat box? Anyone? Okay. So if I go back to our calculation, the first thing that we did was this working count. We calculated the effective machine hours. And 176 hours is the hours excluding the setup time. So don't you think we will be using 176 hours to calculate the power instead of the total number of hours? Is everybody following? Is anybody confused somewhere or stuck somewhere? I'm not seeing any responses. Has everybody understood repairs and maintenance? How we arrived at 240? Have you understood consumable stores? Okay. How about the others apart from Archana and Amal Krishna? I don't see any response from the others. Is everybody following? Clear. Okay. So now power is said to be that there is no power used in the setup hours. So of course, over here we are going to use only 176 hours and not the total hours into 80 paise, because that's what's given in the question. So that will be 176 into 0.8. It comes to 140 point. Yes, but it's written that 20 units are used. So it's not just one unit, it's into 20 units. Perfect. Yes, Amal Krishna, that's correct. So this will be multiplied into 20 units. So that will give us 2816. So that brings us to the total machine expenses of 400 plus 240 plus 300 plus 2816, which is 3756. And the total expenses is 13757 plus 3756. So my total expenses for the 4-week period is 17,530. Has everybody understood what we have done, how we have calculated and come and arrive at 17,500? Please let me know in the chat box. Or is there any component you want me to explain again? Is the 13 period concept not clear? Please let me know. I'll explain it again. How about the others? I'm not seeing any much response. You want me to explain the total expenses again? Okay. So total expenses is nothing but my standing expenses plus the machine expenses. Okay. So that is this 13,757 plus my 3,756, which comes to 17,500. Any component which is not understood, do you want me to proceed? How about Rania? Rania used to respond. I don't see her responding. Okay, anyway, I shall proceed. I am assuming, okay. Thank you, Aisha, thank you. So I shall proceed to the next part, which is the calculation of the machine hour rate. So machine hour rate is calculated by dividing the total estimated overhead amount by the total effective machine hours. So here we will take our 17,513 that we have calculated and divide it by 176 hours that we calculated above. So that comes to 99.51 rupees per hour. So this is the machine hour. Are we clear? Understood this? Okay. Okay, great. So I know this was a very confusing question, but what you need to keep in mind is that you need to understand for how many hours you have to calculate this particular expenses for. What is your period for which you're calculating the expense for? Exactly. This is a very tricky question, I would say. But once you understand the 13 period and 1 period thing, you solve this question by yourself again. Trust me, it will become much more easier now because you've understood the concepts. So once you try solving this by yourself, you should be able to get a hang of how you can, attack the concepts and the questions by yourself. So try this question once again after the class is done by yourself, and hopefully you will be able to answer it in an easier manner. Yeah. Okay. So let's proceed with the next question. The next concept is under absorption or over absorption. So under absorption is, let me take my Excel sheet again. Okay. So if you remember the example that I had given you first, right? How we calculated that 50 rupees of a predetermined rate. Now, what happens is, this is all calculated on the basis of an estimated amount. So when you go back to that example that I showed you, I told you we have estimated a repair expense of 1,000 rupees, correct? But it could happen that actually your expenses were 2,000 rupees. There was a bad accident in the factory. The machine did not perform well, so you had to spend more in order for you to repair that machine. So instead of 1,000, include at 4 o'clock. So then we'll have to take a class tomorrow as well. Is that okay?
Okay, ma'am.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll conclude at 4 then. So it's half an hour more. So tomorrow as well, like probably 1 hour of class will be needed so that we can complete the entire question set. Okay. All right. So I'll just complete let me go back to my PPT. Probably we can take it for so till maybe slide 21. Let's complete till slide 21 and then we'll close. Is that okay? No worries, no worries. Okay. Is the response low because it's you're not able to understand what I'm saying? Okay. Okay, let me try to explain this better. So we have something called as the over absorption and the under absorption. We have understood that there is something called as a predetermined rate. So today when I'm absorbing the cost into the good units, it is being absorbed at a predetermined rate. I'm estimating that there would be a repair expense of 1,000 rupees by the end of the month, and I want to incorporate that expense into my product today. But I don't know what's actually going to happen. There could be an increase in the cost, there could be a reduction in the cost. I'm assuming that I will produce 20 units, but maybe 2 units could be spoiled at the end of the month. So I'm left with only 18 units. So what happens is, most of the cases, all the time, the overheads is not absorbed actually. There's always a difference in the amount. So in this example, if you see, the actual expense has turned out to be 2,000, but we have allocated only 1,000 rupees. So there is still an under-absorbed amount of 1,000 rupees worth of overheads. So we need to calculate something called as the supplementary rate. What is a supplementary rate? A supplementary rate is when we divide the excess amount, which is the 1,000 rupees of the under-absorbed, by the number of units that have been produced, means what you need to allocate it to. So that is 20 units, which we had calculated and kept it here. If you remember, we had estimated 20 laptops. Let's say actually 20 laptops have been produced. So we will need to absorb 50 rupees again more into these 20 units. So when I go into the costing of each laptop, it will have another supplementary rate expense for the under absorbed overhead of 50 rupees. That will be equal to 1,050 plus 50 rupees. So this will inflate the cost of my goods unit. This is how we will have to accommodate for the under absorbed. So generally what will happen is this expense will go into the next month because you would have already calculated the cost for the previous unit. Now this goes into the costing of that units in the next month. So is everybody clear of what is the concept of under absorption and over absorption? I don't see a response. Okay, so we know that. Okay, let me give you a real life example. Let's take a company called, let's take a different type of company. Let's say we're producing fruit juices. Okay, this is a fruit juices company. Now, fruit juices generally will have an estimated juices to be produced. That's coming to, let's say, we are planning to produce 500 units for the month. Okay, and we have an overhead expenses with respect to the packaging of the fruit juice. Okay, and that is coming to, let's say we are assuming for 1 lakhs. Okay, clear till here? Is this example clear? Yeah. Okay. So now we will calculate something called as the predetermined overhead rate. That will be 1 lakh divided by 500 units. So this is my predetermined overhead rate to incorporate these packaging expenses into the cost of the good units. So when I'm doing the costing of the material of the juice, it will be direct material, let's say 1,000 rupees, direct labor, let's say another 500 rupees, and my overhead rate of 200 rupees, right? This is how I will do the costing of my fruit juice. Is it clear till here? Okay. So now what happens is at the end of the year, or no, sorry, at the end of the month, there is a problem. There were 10 defective juice bottles, juices, let's say, because the packaging was not good. So we had to dispose of 10 units. So we ended up producing actually only 490 units. Okay. And also there was an expense increase in the packaging expense. That came to 1 lakh. So increasing instead of 1 lakh, we have spent 1,50,000 rupees. Okay, is this clear? This is my actual expenses at the end of the month. So now what happens is we have incorporated only 200 rupees, which is 200 into 500. Sorry, which is, so let's say what is the actually absorbed amount? 200 rupees into how many units have we produced? 490 units. Right? So that gives me 200 into 490, which is 98,000. But actually the amount was 1,50,000, correct? So there has been an under absorption of the packaging expenses, which is equal to 1,50,000 minus 98,000. So 52,000 rupees is my under absorbed expense, which needs to get absorbed into the goods units. So for this reason, we calculate something called as the supplementary rate. Supplementary rate is calculated by the difference in the amount divided by actual units that have been produced, which is 490. So by 106 rupees, I am going to be inflating all my costings of the juice bottles. So my juice bottle will now, instead of being 1,700, it will have an additional supplementary rate of 106 rupees as because I need to include that 1,50,000 rupees into the cost of my goods. So that will become 1,700 plus 106. It will give me 1,806 rupees. So this will be my inflated cost of the good. Now, is it clear about how we arrived at the inflated cost of the good? Okay. How about the others? Is it clear, everybody? Okay. Perfect. So this is what you need to understand by supplementary. So here it is a case that it has gone up. There could also be a case that it will go down because maybe it was a beneficial expense. You got a better vendor and he gave you more discount. So your expense was actually less. So that in that case, we will reduce this amount. The second case is where this is not because of increase or decrease in the prices, but because you made a mistake. You as in the organization. So sometimes what happens is the organization did not have, it did not keep a proper check and control on its goods. And because of that, there were some issues. So this 10 defective pieces is what I'm saying because of the vendor. But there could be a situation where because of the organization's mishappenings or issues, there was some inefficiencies which caused an increase in the expenses. Like over time because laborers had to work more instead of the regular timing. So when the issue is because of your own inefficiencies, instead of creating a supplementary rate, this entire difference of 52,000 will be transferred to the costing P&L, and we will not inflate the goods of the cost of the good. The price of the good will not be inflated. Instead, it will directly be transferred to the costing P&L account. Are we clear? So what we can do is we can solve one question and then maybe you'll be able to understand this better. So we have an illustration here. The total overhead expenses of a factory is 4,46,003. Taking into account the normal working of the factory, overhead was recovered in production at 1.25 rupees per hour. The actual hours worked were 2,93,104. State how would you proceed to close the books of accounts, assuming that besides the 7,800 units produced, 7,000 were sold and 200 were work in progress. On investigation, it was found that 50% of the unabsorbed overhead was on account of increase in the cost of indirect material and indirect labor, and the remaining 50% was due to factory inefficiency. Okay, so now when we look at the solution for this, okay, so let's look at this question. We can see that the total overhead expenses of a factory is 4,46,380. So this is the actual factory overhead. But we have not taken 4,46,380. We will always absorb the overheads on the basis of the predetermined rate. So my predetermined rate is 1.25 rupees per hour. And the actual hours worked is 2,93,104. Right? So if I go back to my solution, to find the under or over absorbed, let's look at what was the actual overhead. The actual overhead is given to be 4,46,380 rupees. And the overheads that is absorbed is equal to 1.25 rupees into 2,93,104. 1.25 into 2,93,104. Is this clear how we calculated this amount? The basis on which the overhead is absorbed will be based on the predetermined rate. And in this question, 1.25 is that predetermined rate. Okay. And this predetermined rate is multiplied with the actual hours worked, which is 2,93,104, which comes to 366,380 rupees. So to make it more easier, if I give you an example, like, okay, forget an example. In the previous questions, we have calculated something called as the machine hour rate, correct? We have calculated a machine hour rate here, and we have calculated machine hour rates. Since illustration 5, we have been calculating a machine hour rate. This, what is given, is like a machine hour rate. Okay, this is already given. And machine hour rate is absorbed into the good units based on the actual hours that are worked, which is 2,93,104. So here, I will calculate my overhead absorbed as the predetermined rate into the actual hours worked, which gives me a overhead absorbed of 3,66,380. So clearly you can see there is an under absorption. So let's calculate the under absorbed amount. It will come to 4,46,380 minus 3,66,380. You can see that there is an under absorption of 80,000 rupees. So we'll go ahead and calculate something called as the supplementary rate. Why are we calculating the supplementary rate? Because you can see that 50% of the unabsorbed overhead was on account of increase in the cost of indirect materials and labor. And the remaining 50% was due to factory inefficiency. So what you need to understand is when, if I go back to this slide, when the under absorption or over absorption is due to an inefficiency, we will directly transfer it to the costing period. But if it is due to factors out of our control, like for example, an increase in the cost of wages, increase in the cost of labor, then that amount needs to be charged to the good units at the supplementary rate. Okay, and that is why we have to calculate the supplementary rate over here. So how do we calculate the supplementary rate? Supplementary rate will be calculated as the unabsorbed amount due to factors out of our control divided by total units produced. Okay. So now what we know is, what is the unabsorbed amount due to factor out of our control? When I say factors out of our control, it basically means, if you see here, 50% of the unabsorbed amount was due to the increase in cost of indirect materials and indirect labor. So that is 80,000 into 50%. That is 40,000 rupees is an unabsorbed amount due to factors out of our control. Are we clear till here? Is everybody following till here about how we arrived at 40,000? Okay, how about the others? All right. So 50% of 80,000 is due to the inflation. So that will be absorbed into the good units. Now, what is the total units produced? We go back to the question. It says that 7,000 were sold and 200 were work in progress. So that implies that 7,000 plus 200 were the total goods that were, no, sorry. So it says that 7,800 units were produced, correct? But there was also 200 units worth work in progress. The 7,000 units have already been sold. So we cannot absorb it into the cost of the goods that have been sold. The cost of the goods that are technically still in your warehouse or in your factories, in that we are going to absorb it. So 7,800 units, of which 7,000 were sold, there were 200 equivalent units in work in progress. So the 7,800, which is our COGS, plus the 200 units, which is a work in progress, we will have to consider it as part of our supplementary rate. So when we say the total units produced, it will be 7,800 units plus the 200 units. Are we clear with this? Is there any confusion here? Okay, let me explain it again. So if you read the question, it says that 7,800 units produced, out of which 7,000 were sold. There were 200 equivalent units in work in progress. So when we see this, we can say that 7,000. So this 200 units is not included in this 7,800 units because these were produced units, correct? So 200 units were still a work in progress. So we have to consider the work in progress as well for the part of our supplementary rate, because we will inflate not just the 7,800 that have been produced, but even the work in progress goods, they also have to be inflated. You cannot just inflate the final goods. Even the work in progress has to be inflated. So that is why we will be considering the entire 7,800 plus the additional 200 units, which is in our work in progress. So that will give us a total units produced of 8,000 units. So when we calculate our supplementary rate based on the formula that I have already shown above, that will be 40,000 divided by 8,000 units. So that will give me a supplementary rate of 5 rupees. Is that clear? Correct. So now when we get into the, yes, so now when we look at the calculation of the goods, so we have a stock of finished goods. This will be 7,800 minus the 7,000 goods that have been sold, correct? Into rupees 5. Because that is our supplementary rate that we have calculated. This is for the finished goods. Then we have a work in progress. Correct? That will be $200 units into ₹5. Then we have goods that have been sold. So that will be our 7,000 units which has been sold into ₹5. So we have inflated our finished goods, our work in progress, and the goods that have been sold. All these three components have been inflated by a supplementary rate of ₹5. So if you look here, it will be 800 units into 5, 200 units into 5, 7,000 units into 5. So this will be our total increase in the cost of goods. So the total should come to 40,000. And this 40,000 is nothing but our 40,000 which we have to inflate our cost of goods with. This has to be the same once you have inflated the cost of goods. And now we are left with the remaining 50%. So we had a total of unabsorbed rate of 80,000, but we still have another amount of 40,000 that is left. That is the remaining 50%. So this remaining 50% of 40,000 rupees will be transferred to the costing P&L. We will not be inflating it. We will not be inflating our good units, but we will directly transfer it to the costing P&L. Why? Because the question says that the remaining 50% was due to factory inefficiency. So when it is due to factory inefficiency, it will have to directly go as an expense to the costing P&L, and it will not be inflated into the good units amount. Is it clear? Is this question relatively more simpler than the other questions? Were you able to follow this question better? Please do let me know. Okay, how about the others? Okay, perfect. So this was with respect to the under absorption. Let's go to the next question. Okay, so I think this is also a bit of a complex question. So let's do one thing. Let's wrap it up for today. And then probably like from tomorrow, I'll just take a 1 hour class and we can try to wrap up the remaining topics as well. If you have any doubts or questions, please let me know. And if you want me to repeat that before beginning the session tomorrow so that I can simplify it better, because since this was a crash course, I did not try to explain everything in detail. But if you feel like there are areas which you still feel like are not easy to understand and you need more detailed explanation, please let me know. I'll make it a 2 hour class tomorrow and keep that as an explanation in the beginning of the session. So I hope you're clear and you've tried to understand. I've shared the PPT. Please try solving the question once again by yourself. That will really help because now I have assisted you in the questions. Try to solve it by yourself without looking at the answer. And if you're still coming up with an issue and some doubt, some clarity is not there, tomorrow we'll begin with your doubts. Is that okay, everybody? All right. Okay, then thank you so much, everybody. See you tomorrow. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. You want me to share the Excel as well? Okay, no worries. But anyway, the Excel we are solving in the class, right? But I will share it with you. No worries. I'll do that. You know what? I'll do it right away. Please let me know if you have received it or not.